Point 1. Hospital waiting rooms and clinics, where empathy creates unexpected bonds. At first glance, a hospital or clinic might seem like the last place you'd expect to meet someone interesting, let alone attractive. After all, most of us go there for checkups, procedures, or to support loved ones. But here's the quiet truth: when you're in a place of vulnerability, authenticity comes out. In your 60s or 70s, conversations often skip small talk. You start speaking from the heart. And where better for that than a place where life and mortality are visibly present? Imagine sitting next to someone waiting for their spouse or for their own test results. There's no ego in such moments, only honesty, empathy, and shared humanity. Let me tell you about Mrs. Ida, a 68-year-old widow who had just started going in for physical therapy. One morning, she met Mr. Hassan, a retired geography teacher who had come in with his niece. They struck up a conversation over a coffee machine. Both had lost partners. Both had children living far away, and in that waiting room, week after week, their short chats became a gentle bond. Today, they still go for walks in the park every Sunday. Sometimes the most unexpected places where pain and patience coexist are where real human connection is born. Why? Because in your later years, what matters most is no longer perfection or performance. It's presence. So the next time you're waiting for an appointment or standing in a hospital corridor, look up, smile. You never know whose heart is open right next to yours. Point 3. Botanical gardens and community farms, where growth attracts growth. There's something sacred about gardens. They are places where life doesn't just exist, it blooms, ripens, and restores itself. And after 60, your soul starts craving this exact energy, slow, purposeful, nurturing. It's no wonder that some of the most unexpected, beautiful connections for older adults happen not in loud social venues, but in the stillness of botanical gardens and community farms. When you stroll through a garden, your senses reawaken. The scent of jasmine in early morning dew, the soft hum of bees around lavender bushes, the vibrant dance of butterflies over marigolds. These things don't just heal the body, they open the heart. And when you're over 60, that opening matters more than ever. You're no longer looking for superficial conversation. You're looking for someone who knows how to observe the delicate petals of life. Someone who understands the patience it takes to wait for things to bloom. And in gardens, literal and metaphorical, that's often exactly who you'll find. Community gardens and local urban farms are even more powerful. They invite participation, collaboration, and care. When seniors volunteer or attend planting days, they don't just plant seeds in the ground, they plant shared purpose in their souls. Imagine working side by side with someone as you sow vegetable beds, both of you quietly bonding over healthy soil and aching knees. There's a kind of unspoken language in that, a sacred rhythm. You talk less about your resume and more about the rain. About the seasons of life, about losing and regrowing things. Let me tell you about Auntie Mina, a widow in her early 70s. After her husband passed, she sank into isolation, unsure of her place in the world. Then one day, her daughter gently encouraged her to join a local senior gardening initiative. There, she met Mr. Thomas, a retired botanist who spoke more to plants than people. But week after week, they began sharing stories about herbs, about healing, about heartbreak. 2 years later, they're still growing together cucumbers, sunflowers, and a quiet companionship built on roots deeper than romance. Gardens teach us one crucial truth. Everything that grows well is nurtured slowly. And that's the kind of relationship seniors often yearn for. So if you're over 60 and wondering where to find fresh air and a fresh start, don't overlook the garden paths. There's something magical waiting between the roses and the rosemary. Something, or someone ready to grow alongside you. Point 4. Volunteer groups, where kindness breeds connection. There's something incredibly powerful about giving, especially after 60. Not just because it fills your time, or because it helps others, but because it brings you into contact with people who care. And in a world where many seniors feel forgotten or overlooked, volunteering becomes more than an act of service, it becomes a lifeline to meaningful human connection. Let's face it, after retirement, many people struggle with identity. They no longer have the structure of a workday, their children are grown. Some friends have passed away, some have simply drifted. It's easy to feel like you're no longer needed, and that feeling can be devastating. But when you step into a volunteer group, whether it's feeding the homeless, reading to children at a library, helping in hospitals, or organizing community cleanups, you're not just giving help, you're becoming part of a tribe. These are the places where hearts are open and egos are low. No one cares how old you are, how you dress, or whether you've been married or not. What matters is that you showed up, that you're willing to help. That you're kind, and that kindness, it's deeply attractive. You'll meet others who are moved by compassion. People who are sensitive, aware, thoughtful, and likely looking for the same things you are: sincerity, depth, warmth. These aren't loud, fast-paced spaces. These are places where conversations run deeper than, "How's the weather?" You talk about pain, hope, healing, and purpose. Let me tell you about Joe, a 68-year-old former accountant. After retiring and losing his wife to illness, he was consumed by grief. His children lived far away, and his social life evaporated. One day, his neighbor invited him to help out at a soup kitchen on weekends. Reluctantly, he agreed. At first, he didn't talk much. He chopped vegetables and quietly served meals. But slowly, the staff and fellow volunteers noticed his warmth, his gentle humor, his consistency. One volunteer in particular, a retired nurse named Carol, struck up regular chats. They bonded over shared playlists, stories from their youth, and funny customer tales. Over the months, their connection grew naturally, softly, without pressure. Today, Joe says that volunteering gave him a reason to wake up again, and gave him someone to smile with over coffee afterwards. Here's the truth most people miss. When you do good, you draw others who are also doing good. And people who care about others tend to care about relationships more sincerely. That's what makes volunteer groups such powerful spaces for new beginnings, even romantic ones. So if you're over 60 and looking to meet kind, genuine people, don't just search for senior dating sites or crowded social mixers. Instead, ask yourself, where can I give my time and heart? Because when you walk into a room with compassion in your hands, you'll be surprised how many others are there, waiting to hold it with you. Point 5. Art and music workshops where creative souls collide. There is a unique kind of magic that happens when people come together to create something, especially later in life. After 60, when so much of life has been about responsibilities, family, work, and survival, there's a quiet yearning that often surfaces, the desire to express, to feel, to rediscover beauty. That's where art and music workshops come in, not as hobbies, but as gateways to meaningful, emotional connection with others. Let me explain. When you walk into a painting class, or a pottery studio, or a ukulele circle at your community center, something interesting happens. You're no longer just someone's grandparent, or neighbor, or retiree. You become a storyteller, a poet with a brush, a musician who can make a room feel alive. And here's the best part, everyone else in the room is doing the same. You're surrounded by people who aren't afraid to feel something, people who are there not for small talk or pretense, but because they want to explore what's left of life through color, sound, rhythm, and imagination. In these spaces, conversations go deep fast. You talk about childhood memories while sketching. You hum to old jazz tunes while someone beside you harmonizes. You laugh at your own clumsy strokes and applaud each other's courage for trying something new. It's not uncommon to see friendships form quietly over shared paint trays, or deeper bonds grow over the gentle vulnerability of singing in front of others. Art naturally disarms us. It peels away the need to impress and replaces it with authenticity. Let's meet Margaret, 72. After her husband passed away, she felt invisible. Her days were quiet, long, and heavy. She didn't know how to start over. One afternoon, she saw a flyer for a watercolor class at the senior center. She'd never held a paintbrush in her life. But something in her whispered, "Go." She walked in nervously. There were 6 others in the room. An older man named Daniel, with soft eyes and weathered hands, sat beside her. As they dipped brushes into blues and greens, they laughed at their terrible sketches, shared stories of the 60s, and began painting not just canvases, but trust. 2 years later, Margaret and Daniel still paint together every Wednesday, and now share weekend walks, dinners, and the joy of late-blooming love. This is the beauty of creative spaces. You get to meet people at their most honest, most alive selves. There's no pressure to be perfect, only permission to be real. And even if a romantic relationship doesn't blossom, what often grows is equally beautiful: companionship, soul-level friendship, mutual respect, and shared joy in discovering that life still holds surprises. So if you're over 60 and wondering where to meet attractive, interesting, soulful people, look beyond the obvious. Seek out the messy, beautiful, paint-stained corners of your community, the studios, the music rooms, the poetry nights. Because there, behind every canvas and melody, might be someone who sees the world like you do. And that is where connection begins, not with perfection, but with expression. Point 6. Educational courses and lifelong learning hubs, where growth attracts growth. There is something deeply magnetic about people who never stop growing. Who, even after 60, still wake up with curiosity in their eyes and a hunger in their heart to learn, explore, and evolve. If you're looking for a place to meet attractive, interesting, and mentally vibrant people after 60, look no further than educational courses and lifelong learning communities. You might think of a classroom as a place for the young. But today, more and more seniors are stepping into universities, community colleges, online programs, and adult education centers not to earn a degree, but to feed their minds. And what a beautiful thing that is. Because when you sit next to someone who's just as excited to study world history, astronomy, or creative writing, you're not just meeting a classmate. You're meeting a seeker, someone who still believes that life has more to teach, and they have more to give. Let's explore what makes these spaces so rich for meaningful connections. First, they attract people who are open-minded. Anyone who signs up for a course in retirement is already saying, "I want to grow. I want to stretch. I believe in possibility." That kind of mindset is rare. And when two people with that energy meet, magic happens. Second, the structure of these programs invites real conversation. You're not stuck in small talk, you're discussing philosophy, ethics, global cultures, or the art of storytelling. And through these deep discussions, people reveal who they really are. Their beliefs, values, dreams, even their regrets. Take the story of Edward, 68, a retired engineer who enrolled in a memoir writing class. On the first day, he sat across from Nora, 70, a former nurse. Over the next 10 weeks, they listened to each other's stories, raw, personal, poetic. They shared drafts, gave feedback, cried together, laughed together. And one day, as they walked out after class, Edward asked, "Would you like to have coffee with me sometime, just to keep the conversation going?" That coffee turned into a walk, that walk turned into dinner. And eventually, it turned into companionship that neither of them had expected, born not from dating apps or social clubs, but from shared vulnerability in a classroom. Another gift of these educational spaces, they're intergenerational. You might be learning alongside people in their 30s, 40s, 80s, and age becomes irrelevant. What matters is your intellect, your perspective, your questions. This environment makes you feel alive again, not as someone who's aging, but as someone who's still becoming. And let's not forget how attractive it is to be around people who are passionate about something. Whether it's literature, science, philosophy, or art, passion lights a spark in the eyes. It makes you stand out. It makes you memorable. In a world where so many conversations have become shallow, meeting someone in a learning environment means you're starting on a deep, rich foundation. And finally, lifelong learning combats one of the greatest enemies of older adulthood: isolation. Every course you join, every study group you attend, every seminar you listen to becomes a chance to connect, to feel seen, to be stimulated, and to possibly find someone who truly understands your soul. So if you're over 60 and wondering where to meet people who make you feel inspired and connected, don't look only to social events or cafes. Look to the places where minds are expanding, where ideas are blooming. Because often, the most meaningful relationships don't start with romance. They start with respect, with a shared idea, a thoughtful question, a silent nod during a powerful lecture. That's how love, or lifelong friendship, often begins in these classrooms of wisdom. Point 7. Volunteering projects, where purpose brings people together. After 60, many people begin to search for more than just companionship. They begin to search for purpose. A deeper reason to wake up, a way to contribute, to give back, and to feel useful. And it's in this beautiful search for meaning that some of the most unexpected, genuine, and fulfilling connections can blossom, through volunteering. Volunteering isn't just about helping others. It's also about discovering a new version of yourself, and in the process, discovering others who are on the same path. People who show up to serve others, whether it's at a food bank, animal shelter, hospital, school, or community garden, are compassionate, active, and emotionally intelligent. And those qualities are incredibly attractive, not just romantically, but spiritually and emotionally. Let's reflect on why volunteer spaces are rich with potential for connection and even love. 1. Shared values build instant connection. Unlike traditional social gatherings, volunteering immediately places you in an environment where everyone is there for a reason bigger than themselves. You're no longer talking about the weather or passing time with empty chit-chat. You're doing something that matters, together. Whether you're packing meals for the homeless or planting trees for the next generation, you're surrounded by people who value kindness, effort, and responsibility. That's a rare and precious alignment. For seniors, this can be even more meaningful. You've lived long enough to know what's truly important, and you want to spend your time on things that reflect your deepest values. When you meet someone else who feels the same, there's an immediate bond that doesn't need words. A smile shared over boxes of donations or a conversation during cleanup turns into something more, something human and heartfelt. 2. Your best self shows up when you serve. When you volunteer, you step out of your comfort zone. You become a version of yourself that is present, generous, humble, and open. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just doing good, and in doing so, you become more attractive, not physically, but energetically. People are drawn to others who are authentically themselves, and volunteering brings out that authenticity. There's no room for ego, no space for pretension. You're folding blankets, holding hands, guiding children, comforting strangers. It's in these small acts that our truest beauty shines through, and that is what others feel. 3. Real relationships are built on meaningful moments. Unlike dating apps or forced social encounters, volunteering builds connection through shared experiences. You don't have to search for topics of conversation. You naturally start talking about what you're doing, how it feels, the challenges you see, the people you've helped. And from there, the dialogue flows into who you are, where you've been, and what brought you to this point in life.
Take, for example, the story of Helen, 72, who began volunteering at a hospital gift shop after her husband passed away. She wasn't looking to meet anyone, just to fill her time and her heart. But week after week, she found herself working alongside Martin, 74, a retired teacher with a gentle voice and a kind laugh. They started talking between customers, sharing stories about their grandchildren, their gardens, their favorite books. One day, he brought her coffee. Another day, she saved him his favorite shift. And slowly, a quiet companionship grew. A bond not built on romance first, but on presence, kindness, and mutual respect. 4. It's never too late to begin again. Some people feel like it's too late to build new relationships in their 60s, 70s, or 80s. But nothing could be further from the truth, and volunteer communities prove that every day. There are 75-year-old women helping teenagers learn how to read, 80-year-old men holding babies in NICUs, 68-year-old couples feeding the poor on weekends, and all of them are building relationships along the way. In giving their time, they're receiving something much deeper: community, laughter, purpose, and yes, sometimes even love. It's not about chasing anything. It's about showing up and letting life surprise you. 5. Volunteering protects your mental and emotional health. Loneliness is one of the biggest health risks in old age. But volunteering combats loneliness at its core, not by filling your time, but by filling your heart. It gives you structure, reason, and a place to belong. And when you belong to something, when people expect to see your face, when your contribution matters, your whole identity lifts. You start looking forward to each week. You dress with more care. You smile more. You feel seen. And as you glow from the inside, you become a magnet, attracting others. And as you glow from the inside, you become a magnet, attracting others who are also in tune with that same spirit. 6. How to get started. If you're not sure where to begin, start with what touches your heart. Do you love animals? Try an animal rescue center. Care deeply about hunger or homelessness? Check out a local soup kitchen. Interested in teaching? Volunteer at a library, youth center, or adult literacy program. Want to work with other seniors? Try your local senior center or hospital. Once you find your place, show up regularly. Let people get to know you. And over time, those small exchanges turn into conversations. And those conversations may just lead to the connection you didn't even know you were hoping for. So yes, after 60, you may not meet someone in a bar or at a party, but you might meet someone while packing winter coats for the needy, or while playing piano for a group of veterans, or while handing out books at a literacy drive. Because when you give your heart tea, final reflection, your second chapter begins now. In this beautiful journey of life after 60, one truth remains constant. Connection is still possible, still meaningful, and still waiting for you in the most unexpected places. Whether it's through libraries, dance classes, farmers markets, or quiet moments of service, your next great conversation, friendship, or even love story might be just around the corner. So don't let age be a boundary. Let it be a bridge to deeper connections, richer moments, and more authentic relationships than ever before. You're not too old. It is not too late. And your story is far from over. Step out, show up, smile often. Because someone, somewhere, is looking to meet someone exactly like you. Thank you for watching. And remember, new connections begin with one open heart. Let yours lead the way.